Hi, and welcome to a new edition of the Boundary Breakers Collective. This is your place if you want to challenge the status quo, if you want to think out of the box, and if you want to become more aware of possibilities and opportunities to live the life that you really deserve and not the life that you're told to live. I am thrilled to be here today with Kira Leskew. She is a meditation master, a former top five in the world's master swimmer, and serial entrepreneur. She covers stopping early stage burnout, reversing overwhelm and stress to healthy mind for business, and normal mind to high performance mind with meditation for business. This includes awareness, insight, focus, intuition, and the morals required to be highly visible in our time as a leader and entrepreneur. High performance mind practices result in much higher productivity, resolving business and society problems, and increase innovating for the future. Kira loves seeing people make breakthroughs to healthy mind and high performance mind or higher with meditation. Welcome, Kira. This is a very interesting introduction. I have so many questions already, but maybe you can start telling me how about meditation for business and for high performance?
First of all, there's so many levels to this. First of all, the time that we're going through so many challenges and so many changes. Mental health is really challenged right now. And obviously, meditation is a great way to help with that. Like, it is really hard to be at your best if you are in stress or worse. It compromises so many mental and especially emotional abilities. We lose creativity, we lose the empathy for others, we lose compassion for ourselves, we lose our emotional intelligence, we lose our creativity. All of these things are really compromised when we're under stress or worse. So unfortunately, that's way too high a percentage of people today, especially people in leadership roles. But there's a whole nother level that can be accessed in meditation to solve problems. And that can be really knowing yourself better. When you quiet your mind down, you can have insights, you can have awareness. And when awareness, you can do a meditation if you do this style. And there's also 70 or more different styles of meditation, but this is the one
Mhm.
I'm talking about that I think is very applicable to people that are leaders and breaking boundaries in the time that we're in. Is you can go into a meditation and have knowledge that you would not have in a waking state. You can be aware of your own motives, and maybe they're not exactly what they need to be, and you might not even be aware of that. So you can bring a lot of unconscious things to the surface in yourself, as well as the feedback that you're receiving around you, and evaluate what is the validity of all of these different perspectives. And as a groundbreaking leader, how do I apply this or not? Is this just
Mm.
noise and I shouldn't be listening to it? Is this just somebody trying to get my attention and have their own agenda that maybe is useful or healthy or not? And you can go into meditation and sort a lot of that out. It also is a tremendous time saver in terms of being able to get things done, because when we get even a little bit stressed, the mind loses the ability to prioritize, and it thinks everything needs to be done when that's usually not the case. So it's kind
Mm.
of like we go into it's literally fight or flight mode. So either we ignore things that are important, or we think everything needs to be done and we just get more and more overwhelmed, when in fact there might be only one thing that's needs to be done, or maybe nothing needs to be done. Like, I've taken people like almost having panic attacks that they're so stressed and burnt out, and we go through a practice. I'm like, okay, what do you need to know? And you're like, none of this needs to be done right now, and most of it doesn't need to be done at all.
Mm. Yeah.
And
That's very interesting because, Kira, what you're
yeah,
saying is that where a lot of people feel like meditation is something to relax, to de-stress, you are using meditation as a means to be high performance, to have a
Yes.
better decision-making process. So is this the same meditation as what is generally known as meditation, or are these different meditation practices that you implement for decision-making and for leadership performance?
There's more than 70 different kinds, broad, different styles of meditation. So the ones that I focus on when I'm teaching is the ones that are applicable to business leadership. So, there's some that are definitely far more spiritual. And I think that there's advantage, especially if you are not seeing things clearly. Some of the more spiritual practices can really help you remove some of those blind spots where you're not able to see something for what it is. And then there's ones that just help you with, I call it awareness. And if that goes even higher, awareness goes to insight. And that's being able to have those breakthroughs where you can see and do things in different ways. Part of it's calming the stress response because that compromises so many of our abilities. But beyond that, there's another whole level. So stress reduction is the first level. You have to be beyond advanced as a meditator to have awareness and insight in a stress state. So for beginners and anywhere up to advanced, you need to do that first. And that helps a lot of people with things that we literally don't even have our neurons connecting in our brain at the same level when we're in a stress mode. So just
Of course.
getting rid of that alone is bringing you to a whole new level, plus topping up your emotional intelligence, which for a lot of people, that can be enough to solve the problem. But there is another level that you can only access in meditation. So I've received myself and even all the people I've trained over the years, we'll do a meditation and all of a sudden they'll tell me this VP that I have, this is never going to work having them involved in this project. For whatever reason, they don't have the skills, or they should be spending their time on something else, or it's not the right project. All these different things will come up in meditation. And literally, I've had people say, I got a $10 million business idea from this meditation because my staff has been telling me to do it. And I wasn't prioritizing it. But when I went into meditation, I saw that this was actually going to be better than the thing that I thought was the highest priority. Yeah, there's just so many ways where this can apply to leverage what can be done in terms of performance and do it at a highly conscious level with high morals. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting, because a lot of leaders, a lot of executives are very convinced that they are already high performing, that they are having good results. But what you are saying is basically that a lot of them are under optimized, because if they would meditate in a certain way, in a certain procedure, they would even be able to get better results, more extraordinary results, because they would see different things, they would set different priorities, they would include different things that didn't come to mind or that they choose to filter or not to see. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I just wanted to add to that. I've seen so many people where they are doing well, they're doing above average, but they're spending an excessive amount of time to get those results. And then when you start the practices, especially if you're anywhere in the stress scale, and so many people underestimate, like they think that stress is actually, I'm almost dying from it. Stress happens at a much earlier state. And so many people are just used to it being the norm. They don't even realize what's available to them by getting into these zones where you really don't experience a lot of stress. And I've had so many senior level people, executives, entrepreneurs tell me that I'm working 10, 12 hours a day. And then they start to learn these practices and do it regularly. And they're like, I can do this in 2 hours a day.
Whoa, that's impressive. So how can you do that? How can you do more in less time?
When the mind starts to, if you don't have really great control over your mind, it doesn't have the level of focus, but it also doesn't have the level of discernment. So it's not able to see what are the really amazing leverage points that can be used. And it doesn't see always the fastest way to do there. So it doesn't know what is going to move forward 10% versus what's going to move me forward, say 90% or maybe even 300%. And it evaluates those things at the same level. So when you are able to get into these states that are no stress and beyond that into some of the other abilities that you can gain through meditation, you are able to find ways of leverage that just aren't possible in a normal waking state. And even getting rid of the stress, just getting that to like super relaxed, healthy, there is a level of discernment and a level of creativity and emotional intelligence that moves things forward way faster than even high performers are when they're in a stress state.
Mhm. So what does it take to get in that super performing state? Does it take 10 minutes meditation per day? Does it take 2 hours per day? How does it work?
So if you know what you're doing and if you're doing the right practices, first of all, to break this stress response, if you're doing the right practices, you can do that in about 15, 20 minutes a day. I think for the time that we're in, that's not enough for most people. If you want to get to the high performance, what I'm talking about, if you do the right practices, you can do that in about 30 minutes a day and get to quite an advanced level if you're doing the right practices in the right order. If you're just doing like any meditation practice, it could take a lot longer because I've through my own background, which is more than 25,000 hours personal meditation practice, I know which ones work quickly. So will any meditation work? It's going to help some. So it's like exercise. If you do anything's going to make you probably healthier unless you're injuring yourself. But certain things will build muscle and certain things will build your cardiovascular. Certain things may help with weight loss. Certain things may help with relaxation again and sleep. So they all have a little bit different focus in what they do for you. So if you do the right ones, 30 minutes a day. So that's the other reason why I call it high performance mind meditation, is that you can get a lot if you do the right practices in the right order in a very short space of time.
Mm. So basically, this is very interesting because even when we think that we are high performance, even when we think that we are successful, that we work with our teams in a very effective way, what you are saying is, hey, you could do a lot better. If you use the right meditation practices, you can even go further, you can go faster, you can go deeper, you can go better.
There's always another level.
Think that adds up, that builds up. Can you just accelerate on better? Or is
Yes.
this something that you need to do just to maintain a certain, your optimal level? Or can you increase your optimal level?
That's a great question. Yeah, I would say like with any practice, first of all, you need to keep doing it to maintain it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you go backwards.
Mm-hmm.
But with any skill we have, like the more and more expert that you get at it, it does take more time to get those incremental increases. So that's true with any practice.
Mm. Yeah, beautiful. So you already mentioned it before, but why is leadership or why is meditation? Why is meditation a cornerstone for leadership in this time? We were talking about morals, or we were mentioning morals. We are talking about transparency. How can meditation help? Because leadership in today's world is a tough thing. It's a hard and difficult thing. So how can meditation be a cornerstone for that?
There's so many ways. First of all, keeping yourself in a super positive state, which you relax the nervous system, that obviously helps with that. But there's so many different perspectives that are coming to the surface now. And if you don't have a way to quiet the mind and go inside to see what and be willing, this is the other part of it, is it's not just quieting, you have to be willing to see what the different perspectives are. And meditation can be so valuable for insight, but also just seeing where the biases are. What are biases that you might be bringing? Maybe I've had so many people say, this person was telling me this and I've been ignoring them. or I've been trying to deal with this thing and it's just not working. Like I've used all the different ways I can do it. You go into meditation and eventually you'll get to an answer that's this is the way through this situation.
You also mentioned somewhere that meditation is disruptive in the positive sense of the word. We hear a lot, we're talking a lot about disruption, and we always have this negative connotation, but you feel that meditation is disruptive in a positive way. Can you tell a little bit more about that?
Yeah, this is where I'm going to bring the morals in a little bit more. The time that we're in, we're really asking a lot of leaders and people that are in positions that are highly visible. And there's a lot of pressure to do the right thing. In the past, you could be enormously successful, and we've seen so many scandals. You just have to, you pick any, area of life, and there's tends to be some kind of scandal there in some way. So to be the leaders that are going to be able to withstand this level of scrutiny in the future, and it's not just going to be these big leaders, it's going to be community leaders, it's going to be businesses that have influence. Maybe it's even just within a community, but they're highly visible within that community. The level of expectation of morals that's going to be expected, I see it continually increasing for sure over I would say the next decade, probably longer than that. So how can you be the person that you need to be to handle that level of scrutiny so that you're not getting emotionally triggered, you're not getting upset, you're not blind to things, you know when to hold the line, you know when, yes, you know what, we're on strong moral ground here, what we're doing is appropriate, and when to look a little bit deeper and say, okay, this party wants this and this party wants that. Where is the moral ground, the high moral ground within all of that? And meditation is the right kinds of meditation are extremely useful for that.
Okay. So basically, what if we want to start? Where to start with this? If I say, okay, this sounds very reasonable, this is absolutely disruptive because I thought I was pretty performant. And what you're saying now is that I can be even more performant working less or making less effort. So where do I start?
The first thing is we'd love to help you if that's the case, but the first thing is always any level of stress response that needs to go first. There's a lot of health benefits from doing that, but it really gives you the baseline of what you're naturally capable of, given all the other training, skills, experience that you've had in this life. And just doing that can, for a lot of people, take things to a whole other level, as well as make them a lot healthier. And then beyond that, it's really committing to a daily practice and learning the techniques and practicing the techniques. And that can take daily practice for a complete beginner, anywhere from 6 to 12 months to work their way up in skill level to be able to do like high performance mind meditation.
Okay, wonderful. There's people who say meditation is absolutely not for me. I can't do it. I tried several times, I tried many times. It's not for me. How do you help these people?
First of all, I'd say there are more than 70 different kinds of meditation. And the way I teach it, it starts people off very slowly, and we work on the stress response first. So that's really what a lot of people have the challenge with, is that a lot of traditional meditations, and this is how I learned, is that you just need to sit for 30 to 40 minutes. And at the last little bit, then that's when the meditation really starts, is the mind calms down enough. I teach it the opposite way. I teach techniques that calm the nervous system down a lot faster, and they can see a little bit of success. And we can start with as little as 6 minutes. A lot of times the expectation that people have when they're going to meditate, it's just too high. So there are different ways that you can approach meditation. For some people, maybe sitting meditation isn't the right thing. They can do a breathing meditation and then apply that, say, to a walking meditation. which is going to start to calm things down, bring them into a place where they can do it. So they can start to apply meditative skills and then work their way up to the point where they can actually do a sitting meditation. But what I've seen in all the people that I've taught, that when we do it in this way, that they are able to sit, and the expectation isn't that you have a completely quiet mind. It's just that you slow thoughts down, or that you're able to focus your mind in certain ways. And it's much, I haven't run into anybody that couldn't do it, really.
So you think there's hope for everybody? That's amazing. Yeah,
It's just
absolutely.
finding it at the appropriate levels.
Yeah.
When even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when like mindfulness was the main thing, that was a public thing that a lot of people were using for meditation, the stress levels were actually a lot lower than they are today. So
Mhm.
it was approachable for a lot of people.
Mhm.
But today we need something that's going to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
And also the expectation is people can sit down and just have a quiet mind. I've had a lot of meditation practice. I can't do that every day. Like
Mhm.
some days my mind is not as quiet as I would like it to be, and
Mhm.
that's okay. So I might practice a meditation that where I'm going to just calm the mind down and do a different practice, and just know that what it was for that day is the right thing and it's still helpful. Yeah.
You also mentioned, Kira, that you have a gift for the people listening here. Is that something that they can use in order to get a little bit familiar with what you do, or what is it that you can provide?
So the gift that I have is, first of all, it's a little quiz on morals, because I think that's, whether you're meditating or not, I think this is extremely useful for the time that we're in. And then
Mhm.
a little evaluation, on self-evaluation on stress levels and what it's really costing. Because even if you are a high performer, and it is possible to be at the top of your field and still be stressed, because it's so commonplace.
Mm.
And you can just look at how much further can you go by eliminating that. So we have that as a gift that people can check
Wonderful.
that out.
Yeah, wonderful. And then they can get in touch with you, and if they want to know more about your program. I believe that what you do is amazing. The world for now, I see that in my work with women that I coach and that I help to scatter their inner glass ceiling, is, like you say, a lot of disconnection, a lot of stress, a lot of overwhelm, because there's so much happening in the world and we are so much injected and thrown over with information and news in a way that is absolutely not acceptable in terms of volume, in terms of negativity. And I believe it is very hard on your own to stay up, to stay standing strong, and to understand what is going on in the world and how how you still can thrive. Although there's so much things that are negative and difficult and hard and harsh. And I do believe that it is important to understand that there are a lot of ways, and what you are offering is amazing, that there are a lot of ways to build that resilience muscle, to get out of that reptilian brain, to get out of that stress mind, of that cortisol production, and enter minds and mindsets that are sustainably contributing to a better place. Can be professionally, can be personally, can be community, and contribute to more humanity as I see it. So something that comes to my mind, Kira, is that when I work with high achieving women, even in my coaching, I do retreats here. They come here for 4 or 5 days just to reconnect with themselves, reconnect with nature. And we use nature basically as a lever for transformation. And sometimes this is special to see. They are here for 5 days and they want to be coached for 5 days. And sometimes I say, maybe it's time to reflect, to to have things landing, and to think of how you can use this and how this aligns with other things. And they say, no, because we are here, we just want to continue. We just want to continue because we need to use all the time we have in order to be productive and in order to achieve. And sometimes I wonder, especially when you talk about meditation practice, which is basically going back and have stillness. not only in your mind, but also in your being completely. How do you think about that? And what would be your advice to people that are like in this overachieving mode? It's like they even feel guilty if they take a sauna or if they take a walk or if they just do nothing. What would be your advice there?
Yes, there's so many different levels to that. So the first question I would ask is if you could do one thing one time and get the result that you wanted, or you had to do that same thing 100 times to get the same result, which one would you prefer?
Yeah.
Now, the majority, even if you love doing it, probably most people would like to get it the first time, right? Like, why not just do it the first time? What I learned, and this goes even back to my days as an elite athlete, is rest is part of high performance and rest is part of training. So if you're just pushing all the time, there may be times in our lives where we need to do that. The problem
Mhm.
is that when we get stuck in that mode, then we get to overwhelm, and that can lead to burnout very quickly. And we don't actually have the discernment anymore of what's actually moving us forward. And that's the time I found that if you have that regular meditation practice, first of all, it will help you every day. But there have been so many times, even at the level that I'm at now of 25,000 hours, that I think, oh, I need to do this. I need to do this. We need to keep going. And then I go into meditation. It's no, if you get this one part and this other part, that's it. Two things out of a massive to-do list, it's going to give you massive leverage. And that's what high performance is about. It's about being able to do things that either other people or you couldn't do in a different state, but it's also about getting extraordinary results. And that's not always more. It's doing the right things in the right way that gets the right result. And rest is part of that.
So basically, it's about being effective and efficient at the same time.
Yep.
Although I would say this high achievers, or sometimes you could call it overachieving, it's a mindset, isn't it?
I agree, but I've seen people that can do extraordinary things with minimal effort. And I've seen people that they're burning themselves out and then still not being able to do it because it's not sustained. That level of effort isn't sustainable. So it's, to me, the real high performance is when you can get extraordinary results with less effort and in an
Yeah.
easier way.
Absolutely.
And
That's
again,
economics of
yeah.
scale. This is how basically a lot of principles of economy are based on that. The highest possible performance with the less possible effort. The thing is that people, even if they have very high results, they still sometimes feel they have to make a lot more effort. And then the effectiveness disappears, doesn't it?
I think that really comes from, and again, this is something that can be helped tremendously through meditation. There's this feeling that we need to earn things, and if it hasn't been enough struggle, then it wasn't
Yeah,
worthwhile. What's coming
exactly.
to mind right now is I was watching an Olympian. I think this was the 2016 Olympics. And she was interviewed and they said, what did you do? I was, oh, I was just really positive and just having a good time. And I'm like, she gets it. And this was someone who won an Olympic gold medal, right? And no one wanted to hear her. They wanted to hear the struggle story, right?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I'm like, but this young lady really got it, that it doesn't have to be about the struggle to get the extraordinary results. And she had multiple medals at that Olympics to prove it, but she didn't get the same press that someone who had the struggle story did.
Hmm. Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once again, interesting, but that's topic for another session is how media are interested in certain things and are absolutely not interested in other things,
Yeah.
while they should better bring these things because they're a lot more joy-giving and reassuring. But it is basically what we want to hear. And it is culturally and probably also historically defined that we need. I also think even that it is, I'm living in Europe. We are a Catholic region. It's also about you have to work hard, you have to earn what you get. If you get something for free, it's not fair. This is something that is somewhere. And probably it's also what we still see with high performers, that sometimes they prefer to keep going, to keep running, rather than look at efficiency and effectiveness. And I'm very happy that you bring this story that is so clear and basically also research based, that rest is essential in high performance. And it is also important not only for yourself, but also for your teams, because I see a lot of leaders wearing their teams out
Yes.
by demanding more and more. And I see also that the new generations do not accept that anymore, because this is not the way they want to live. And so also for these new generations, for the younger generations, this might be an ideal tool or strategy to go into this meditation. So to be able to accommodate what their boss wants or what the organizations want and what they want in their life, to have it all, basically high performance, but also a part of life of their own.
I've asked, and this, you bring up such an amazing point. There's this issue around deserving in our culture of earning it. But it brings up another story. I had someone who came to me, they were an extremely high performer. And by that, 1 in 1,000, like they were top. And then they were told they weren't putting in enough time. And the expectation was that they were getting top 1 in 1,000 results, working about 3 or 4 hours a day, because they knew the leverage points. They kept themselves in an amazing state. And they really had a deep understanding of how to go about accomplishing things. And they did practices that were very similar to meditation. It wasn't exactly meditation. And then there was a change in business leadership, and they're like, no, you have to do XYZ steps. If you're getting this much, then we expect this much more if you put in more time. Guess what happened?
No, didn't work.
Lost 30% performance, gained a whole bunch of weight, gained 50 pounds, had health problems, relationship problems, like all these problems that this person didn't have before, they now had, because it was about time put in rather than output.
Then
So if you're
outcome,
thinking, yes, the actual results. So ask yourself, which is more important?
yeah, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
our society picks making sure that people do what we're putting in the time rather than getting the outcomes.
Yeah, exactly. There's a little shift in that, but absolutely. And especially since COVID, when leaders and managers and executives were actually not really able to see how many hours people were putting in. They tried to do all these little things so they could control it on the computer, and then the people on the computer try to get around that. But basically, there's a little growth there in terms of people watching the outcome and the results rather than the hours put in, because that is basically what it is about. But this is something that we still have from the industrial era, where people were working in factories. But if we work with, especially when you talk about athletes, but also when you talk about knowledge workers, it is about the outcome. It is about the result that they produce. And if they can produce that result with 3 hours, but then probably they need the other hours in order to rest or restore or whatever they do to feed that energy and that result, then if you start changing that and modulating that based on a traditional principle that is not realistic anymore, then you get what you say, then you get all these negative consequences. Absolutely. So also there is a lot of room for leaders and for people that have team members and that lead teams to look at it a different way, because we are human beings. And I see a lot of people thinking that we are human doings. And if we are not in the action, if we're not doing something, then we are not productive. Why you can be extremely productive doing nothing, because doing nothing is like an alternative for meditation. If you can do that, just to have your mind
If
wandering, that's where ideas come up. That's where the really aha moments. I have the same, even if I walk with my dog, I do that twice per day per definition. A lot of ideas come there, or solutions, or think, oh, I could look at it that time, that way. Or because when you are in the moment and in the stress of the solution, or you need that solution, you are not activating the part of your brain that is finding the solution, that is creative. That's absolutely true. Yeah. Absolutely
If you
true.
have control over your mind, the lower time works. If you
Mm,
don't have control over your mind, you're just getting a smaller fraction of what's done. So they have to go together. So that if you're going to do the less time, it needs to be done in a way, because the mind manifests as well, right? So you have to have control over that for those shorter times to be effective. But when you do, you pick the time that's appropriate to get the outcome, and then you make sure that you're doing everything to ensure that time is the best possible, and that's real high performance.
mm, absolutely. That's real high performance. Wonderful. I think we can all see why this is a place, why Boundary Breakers is a place for this topic, because high performance meditation, it's like a combination of words that we do not use. And you made it very clear that there are a lot of possibilities using meditation that has been basically a practice for ages and ages for a reason. But the thing is that we look at it, or that we have a perception of it, most of us, as it is something you do as self-care practice in order to restore and build resilience and recharge your batteries. But what you say is basically that we can use it for something completely different, for high performance. And I really love that as a concept. And I can only advise everybody listening in here and watching to explore a little bit more and to see how it can help you, because obviously you know what you're doing. You have achieved also extraordinary results also in sports, so it proves that there are ways that are extraordinary in order to get there. Absolutely. So thank you so much, Kira, for contributing to this session and for sharing your wisdom and your insights and for your generosity. So people, if you want, you can access here in the comments, you can access the link to get to the quiz and the self-reflection, and probably a lot more that Kira is offering you in terms of high performance meditation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.